Upload an encounter. This action is going to allow panel fields to use numeric values stored in the counter. Once it's used, it's going to subsequently increase the value in the counter each time the action is triggered. So each time we use the value of the counter. Why do we want to use counters? Well, basically we're going to use them. For example, if we want to give a unique identification number to a process or to anything that's happening within a process, I can use a counter. The counter is stored outside of the process panel. So I can actually use the same counter for different classes of process. So maybe I have a purchasing process, I have a room reservation process, I have, I don't know, different classes of processes that are totally different, but I want them all to share the same consecutive number. Okay, so maybe each time a process is launched, I want it to have a unique reference, a unique tracking number. So in order to do this, you can use the option counters. Counters are created in structure. So you go to structure, you go to the dictionary, and you find the option counters, and there you can create a counter and give it a name. Once you give it a name, you can even input a value, and that means each time a process uses this value, it's going to retrieve the value and it's going to update it with +1. So if the first process used 5,400, then once it's used it, it's going to upload, it's going to bring into this value of this counter 5,401, okay, and so on. So here we can see there's a possible use. So maybe a case scenario where we're managing yearly budgets. So we need to apply a unique number to each one of these, no matter in which process they're created from. So in order to do this, we're going to use this counter that's called tracking number. And this feature is going to allow us to create and apply a sequential number for all of the classes of process. So for all of the processes that are of different classes of process. So by doing so, a unique sequential value is going to be assigned to each process. So here we can see we have two processes of the class of process publications, and they have these sequential numbers. And then these other processes are also triggered from a different class of process, and they continue having the sequential numbers. So when the system task with this function uses the counter, the actual value of the counter is going to be increased +1. Here we can see an example of the configuration. It's really simple. All we have to do is select the function. Here we're going to have to select the destination field in the panel of our process. Over here we're going to select the counter. So let's imagine this is our counter. It's called tracking number. So here I'm going to select the counter that's called tracking number. And down here I'm going to select a result field. Now what's going to happen when the flow reaches the system task? What's going to happen is the counter is going to be blocked. We're going to bring the value to the panel of the process. Once we extracted this value, we're going to increase the number of the counter with a new value +1. And once this has happened, the counter is unblocked in order for it to be used by the next process. So let's say we have a queue of hundreds of thousands of processes that are actually using this counter. We're not going to have any problem because they're not going to be attacking or rewriting the counter all at once. They're going to be sequential. So the system is smart enough to know that first it has to assign the counter to one of those processes, increase the value, and once it's increased, it unblocks it so that the next process that's in the queue can retrieve the value of the counter. And that way, the value of the counter is never going to be repeated in any process. Now we can continue with the exercise 3.03. Thank you for your attention.